Hello and good morning. Joe Justice here, coming to you live from 950 Canal Boulevard in Charleston, West Virginia, Advantage Technologies headquarters. Great to be with you here today. It is December 6th, 2022, and we are seeing a bit of a gloomy day. We've got some rain coming in. Hopefully it's going to be clearing up here soon. We're going to be in the Charleston Parade a little later this week on Thursday, so we are really hoping and praying that we get nice weather on Thursday because everyone's looking forward to that. We're going to have the kids there. We're going to have signs. We're going to have blinking lights. We're going to do the whole thing, so we're really excited about it. Today, I want to tell you a couple of stories about some, well, you could think of them as horror stories, but I really think of them as stories that could have been horror stories that weren't. First of all, if you go back, it used to be really common to have backup devices that were typically something like a RAID array. So you'd have 2 or 3 hard drives that would be stored in one system, and you'd back up everything to it at night. That used to be a really common backup technique. And what would happen is you had these devices, they were network attached storage, and they would give you little alerts if one of the hard drives failed. So that was the whole idea. You would have the 2 devices in there, so if one of the drives failed, you would just pop that out, pop a new one in, and the device would continue along, and you wouldn't miss anything. Great idea, right? Except when nobody's actually monitoring to make sure that those hard drives are both up and running. So what we ran into, unfortunately, with a customer, and this was several years back, was they didn't have any monitoring going on with their network. They had one of their hard drives failed. They thought that it was a secure backup. Eventually, the other hard drive failed. And then when they went to retrieve a backup, they found out both hard drives had failed. So they had all of this redundancy. They had a backup. They had a RAID backup. So you had 2 drives. One backed up the other drive, and those 2 drives backed up the main system. Well, what happens when one drive fails, the other drive fails, and then the main drive fails, and nobody's paying attention, nobody's minding the store? Well, you end up losing all of your data. That's why it's important to have a third party with eyes on your network. That one is a bit of a horror story. That was pretty traumatic, and it's completely unnecessary because what you do have to keep in mind is that those types of things don't happen if you have third-party monitoring like we offer at Advantage Technology. Third-party monitoring is the ability to put sensors and other software agents on computers to monitor things that are going on, and it can keep an eye on important things like network events, hardware events. It can do everything from monitoring the temperature of the CPU all the way to the status of hard drives and everything in between. We had a customer of ours one time that we had a server fail. And we got the alert, the server had failed, and we didn't know why. It wasn't obvious from the monitoring what was going on. The computer had just completely quit operating. So we actually ended up calling. Now, this was late at night. This was after everybody had gone to work. This was after everybody had gone home. The day was over, and there was nobody there to check on the device. So we ended up calling the customer because we figured that they might want to do something that night, so they wouldn't have to worry about it first thing in the morning. They go in, and what had happened was there was actually a water line break, and the office had been flooded. And that had actually destroyed the server. It had damaged the server, but that alerting enabled them to be able to stop anything else from happening and to clean everything up to stop the water before anything else got damaged. So again, that's another example of how alerting is important and how you can solve problems with alerting. We had a great customer of ours that we work with regularly that actually, believe it or not, and we've been in business for 20 years, so we've seen just about everything. Their building was struck by lightning. I know, it's pretty crazy. Technically, there was a tree right outside their office. It was hit by lightning. It burst into flames. It was wild looking, but the static lightning from that had gone into the building and had gone through the electrical system and completely destroyed their switches. Again, this let us know in the middle of the night that there was an event. All of the switches suddenly died. So they weren't sending that information back to our servers anymore, and they weren't alerting us anymore. So what happened when that happened? We contacted the client. The client was able to go check things out, saw that the building had been struck by lightning, and we began the process of cleaning things up. We were able to get them some new switches, overnighted, rushed right away, got those installed. Fortunately, it didn't do too much damage, but within 24 hours, we had them up and running with some temporary technology and some backups and some other things, so they didn't really lose any significant amount of business uptime. And that's the kind of thing that you can deal with. Now, imagine that type of a scenario if nobody's getting alerts. You can just imagine these types of scenarios, which I'm sure you've experienced yourself, going into the office. You go to check your email and you just see nothing's working, right? Or you go to copy some files off of the server and you just see nothing's working. Well, now you're behind the 8 ball. The day's started. People are doing things. Customers are calling. The phone's ringing. You've got things on your schedule, stuff that gets done, and you're already behind because something happened, some event happened last night, and now things aren't working. So first thing you've got to do is get somebody to come over and troubleshoot, see what's going on, and trace everything down. And it can take hours and hours and hours, sometimes days, to figure things out. If you have third-party monitoring, remote monitoring by Advantage Technology or another IT company, something similar to that, then that gives you the ability to know what's going on. Is everything down because a switch has died? Is everything down because a hard drive has failed? Is everything down because the power's gone out? Maybe there's something wrong with the power. Maybe there's something wrong with the battery backup. Maybe there's something nefarious going on. Maybe that there's been some kind of hacking activity. You can actually take this remote monitoring up to the next level. So the first level that you would have with remote monitoring would be kind of your basic level of monitoring. You would be monitoring things like CPU usage, hard drive space, hard drive status. Most people don't know this, but modern hard drives will let you know. They actually send out messages that let you know if things are unstable, if they're running into a lot of errors, if something looks like it's about ready to fail. And you can monitor that, and you get that information and then replace that hard drive before it fails, which is an excellent idea, by the way. You want to keep on top of that. You need to know if switches have failed. You need to know if CPUs are running hot, because that could mean that there's processes that are running that shouldn't be running. So there's all these kinds of stuff that you can kind of monitor at a kind of a base level to make sure that your network is in good health and is operating properly. Everything is running smoothly. You've got plenty of hard drive space. You've got plenty of CPU resources. You've got plenty of RAM available. If you're peaking out on all of these areas of something, it means something's wrong, or you need to upgrade to smooth things out. But the next level you can go above that would be a managed security operations center, a SOC. That's the next step, which would be a managed detection and response that we can also provide. And what that does is monitor traffic, monitor stuff from your firewall, monitor stuff from your from network traffic to see if there's any kind of nefarious activity. So you can just imagine a hacker trying to hack into your system. You've got some kind of a system built in to where if they try and fail a password 3 times, then it automatically boots them out, maybe locks that account for 5 minutes or something like that. Well, if that never alerts anybody to anything, then that hacker can still just continue doing that over and over and over and over and over again. Yeah, it might take them weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, but maybe if it's a simple password, maybe they'll eventually get in. So you want that kind of stuff monitored. You want to know if there is some kind of a ransomware event. You want to know if that event happens right away, if all of a sudden there's something being propagated very rapidly by one of the machines. You want that to be sent to you or to sent to a technician that can shut things down right away. If your email is suddenly blasting out tons and tons of emails, that means that it's been hacked and there's some kind of a bot sending emails out. You want that information right away. So it's important to use a third-party monitoring service, a third-party managed detection and response system to keep an eye on your network to keep everything running in tip-top shape and make sure that everything remains smooth so that when you come in the morning, you will be able to get right to work without having to fumble around and worry about what's going on, what happened the night before. If you found this helpful, be sure to like, subscribe, follow, share this with a friend that might find it interesting. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all tomorrow.